Welcome to part 2 of our series of episodes where we want to help you ask the right question when comes time for maybe switching your registration platform, or maybe you're shopping for a registration platform for the first time and you haven't thought about everything. So we're going to try and help you think about everything that you need to ask in a sales call, because there's nothing worse than signing a deal and being dissatisfied with your decision after the fact because you forgot to think of one or two things. So let's get to it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm your host Will, and I'm here with Ollie today.
Hey Will.
As usual.
Yeah.
We're going to start laughing about ourselves now because we start every episode the same way. All right. So today we're talking about extra things to think about when you are shopping for a registration platform. So pull out your notes from the first episode if you've got them. And we're going to continue down the list right here. And, one thing maybe to mention right here off the get-go is, oftentimes when we think about a registration platform, we're thinking about, all right, how do they handle registrations? How do they handle payments? Can they handle my special rules in the way that I want to run my organization? But maybe some things that we think about a bit less is, how does it handle all of the stuff after the initial registration? So we hope to bring a few points regarding that. And so let's go. We start with waitlists. Yes. So once we've filled out our class, it can be very, very helpful to have waitlists, because sometimes people will, back out of a class close to the beginning of the class. And if we have waitlists, and especially automated waitlists, it becomes very easy to fill up those spots. So Ollie, talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think when you're looking for software, I think nowadays, if your software doesn't have a wait list, like kind of run, you know what I mean? Like you're supposed to have a wait list.
Sure.
It's one of those big things where you can lose a lot of money if you don't have it. But a lot of times, you'll be on a sales calls and it's not necessarily a question I get. I do a lot of sales calls where like, oh, you got wait list, and they kind of check, it's kind of a check. Yeah. I would go and ask a few more questions. So one of them is, okay, cool. So how is the waitlist automated, and how is it sent out to the person on the waitlist? Is it a notification by email? And if so, does it come from your domain? Right. So info at, gymnasticsclub.com, or does it come the notification from the software's domain, right? So notification at softwareabc.com. And there's a big difference there, because that notification means all the communications that are coming out of that software, regardless of which org is using it, will be coming from that domain. So if another org does spam using that software, your notification for waitlists is more likely to end up in spam and therefore lose a client, right? So are you able to configure your own domain email address? It's super important to ask for.
Yeah, and we really don't want that email to go in spam, because a waitlist is such a time-sensitive thing.
Exactly. And the next thing is, okay, is email the correct way of sending it out? Why not text, right? Yeah. So are you able to automate a text? So let's say you have there's 12 spots in your camp. Somebody last minute, 5 days before, unregisters. Now you have an open spot, right? Chances are somebody comes from marketing really low, but you got 3 people on your wait list. So you automate the wait list. First person gets a text. First of all, by getting the text, they're going to see it much quicker than the email. Or maybe they're going to miss the email. They won't miss the text. Yeah. And then does it have the option to unsubscribe, or not unsubscribe, but to say, I don't want that spot.
Right. To refuse a spot. Yeah.
If you refuse a spot, then the next person gets the text, and the next person gets a text. So it's crazy, because if you use text and you can refuse a spot within maybe a very short amount of time, you might have went through 3 people, where on an email in spam would take 24 hours before even getting to the second person by email, and maybe in spam again, right? Yeah. And you only have 5 days to get that spot. So I think it's such an important those are 2 questions really important. I would really encourage, say, put it on text, because if I'm on a wait list, I got 3 young boys. If I'm on a wait list, just text me. I want to know if there's a spot. That's Absolutely. It's not spam. It's not marketing. It's just, I asked for that.
And the reality is, probably if I've signed up for a wait list, I'm waiting for that notification.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
100%.
It's...
And I've had it in the past where somebody's waiting for that notification, but it ended up in their spam. So they missed the 24-hour window. They find it a few days later, and then somebody else took their spot, and they're
disappointed, frustrated,
very, very
emotions you do not want to.
Exactly. So you're dealing with a frustrated client. So the whole experience of the client is much better with the text, but also the text will help you get more clients in. And I love to give the example. If you're selling $200 programs and you only get one per month that you don't lose because you send it by text and you automated all of that, that's $200 a month, pure profit, $2,500 at the end of the year in your pockets, just because you got that simple automation.
Because you set it up once and then you're good to go.
So, I mean, that pays for a huge part of your software when you think about it. So I think that one little question can go a long way when you're deciding which software to pick.
Very, very good points. And I think it's also good for customer satisfaction, because the person receives, we mentioned it with the email. If they miss it, they're frustrated. We don't want to generate negative emotions in our clients. So customer satisfaction, gets us it. And even if they refuse it, they're like, wow, cool. Like they actually wrote to me with the waitlist. So in line with that, another thing that is super important in the business world, people call it NPS, but we can call it just customer feedback. So the ability to connect and send automated surveys based on the activities we're doing.
Yes.
Super important for a lot of different reasons. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think you want to know how things are going. I think the challenge in the sports and leisure industry is you'll hear the angry parents a lot, and you might not hear the happy parents as much.
I think that's a society thing.
Yeah, possibly. So we tend to sometimes disregard, at one point just disregard surveys totally, because it's like, well, they don't have the context and all that kind of reasons. And a lot of times your registration software, which has all the context of all your clients, is unable to create a survey, which for me is crazy. It's like, no, you're taking registration. You should be able to survey your clients at the same time, right? And then being able to automate it. So for example, I used to, when I started off 13 years ago in the operations and sports and leisure, my partner and I were giving classes, and eventually we got more and more people, coaches. And then I'm like, I need to survey. I need to understand how they're doing. I'm not there with them. Right. Yeah. So we started doing surveys at the end of the session. It was on SurveyMonkey. We would send an email. People would not read it. Long story short, we stopped doing it for a while because I would forget about it. As we grew, it just became too much work. So I stopped doing surveys. But if you have a software that can automate it, let's say 5 days before the end of class, to send it to all the parents, or 2 days after, whichever you want, so that regularly, regardless of the activity they took, they always get the survey at the same time, you can then accumulate responses. And yeah, sure, you can still ignore that angry parent that, doesn't like the class for whatever reason, and that all 10 other like it.
Yeah, if it's an outlier. That's
exactly. But you'll see trends coming out. Right. And I think you can then take things like, oh, this class is harder to give, or this coach is not doing that good of a job getting kids in, right? There's all these little things that you'll be able to see if you get enough data. Yeah. But if you have to do it manually, you'll forget. If you send it sometimes 3 weeks after or 2 weeks before, whatever, if you don't send it regularly at the right time, you won't get the correct data. Right. But you will not if you don't automate it, right? So by automating it, that the system goes like that, and your only job is to go in and look at the analytics and then figure out how you can improve. And then, obviously discern what's good feedback, what's bad feedback, and even take it to another level. Reach out to the parents who gave you really good feedback for testimonials. Bring it as a marketing tool.
Turn it into a marketing tool. Yeah. Exactly. So that's really, really important. And next level tip right there. So think about, how does that software deal with surveys? Can it do it? Do you have to integrate something else like SurveyMonkey or not? We'd say ideally keep it in the same place, because now you have all of your subscriber data, all of your your participant data, and that's really precious when it comes to analyzing data like that.
This episode is sponsored by Activity Messenger, an online registration software I helped build after spending more than a decade managing kids' sports programs and dealing with outdated, disconnected tools that slow everything down. I know the frustration of using a bunch of old tools that don't sync, don't scale, and definitely don't make life easier. Activity Messenger is built to fix that. Our goal is to be your all-in-one operating system, modern, mobile first, and to simplify your entire workflow. Want to check it out? Visit activitymessenger.com to book your free demo. Now, let's get back to the show.
So we talk a lot about, registrations for participants, but there's also the whole staff management part of it too. So can the software deal with staff management? Can we have instructors connected to the, the different participant lists and things like that. So what are some of the good things to think about here?
Yeah, I think one thing you want to do is you want to involve your staff in the software, right? You want your software to be just this closed box that your staff has no idea what's going on. But at the same time, you probably don't want like your 17-year-old camp counselor to have access to your reporting, your financial reports, right? So you want level of permissions that are there where you can give your staff access to only their attendance lists, right? Only their private lessons, whatever it is. And you can maybe even like more senior staff, give them the ability to communicate with parents saying, hey, I'm going to be late, or don't forget to bring this next class, right? So you can eliminate some of the admin stuff on you if you have a software that gives you the attendance list and the ability to communicate with parents. I think that's a big one. And then other stuff that are important, like what's your onboarding process, right? So you're hiring 30 people, 40, 100 people every summer for your summer camp. How are you getting people to, your staff to onboard, sign documents, sign contracts, ask for time off, sign confidentiality agreement, see your video trainings? Can you have a hub where they can sign those time track
their worked hours?
Exactly. So all those things, like, is that included as well? Because your registration software, hopefully, it can do more than just take registration, right? It can actually become a whole ecosystem for your business. But if your staff is still going on other softwares, and especially with part-time staff, like I used to have staff working 3 hours, 4 hours a week. And then it's like, you need 3 softwares, one for attendance, the other one for your staff management, the other one for onboarding documents. It's like, really, like that's just gonna overwhelm your staff, and they're not gonna do it. But if you can bundle everything into one place, they only have to go to one place for their time off request, or it just makes everything easier, and they're actually gonna do it instead of not doing it because it's all over the place.
Correct. And maybe one thing I could say that's sort of semi-related to this is I see more and more organizations coming to us for internal communication. Yes. So the ability to communicate easily between staff, but you send a text message, and, in the context of instructors or even part-time instructors, this could be really important too. You schedule an SMS to go out, not to your participants. Well, you could do that too, but to a special message that goes out to your staff. Yeah. People like, hey, Saturday morning, here's the things to remember. And
I think anybody listening can relate to this. You do a training 3-4 weeks before your start of session. Sure. You say, guys, we cannot forget these 4 points when we start the session. And then you go and watch your coach and they completely forget all of them.
Of course.
It makes sense. People are busy. A lot of part-time staff have school. They're studying. They're doing all that stuff. Imagine if you just schedule a text that morning and saying, hey, just as we spoke at training, don't forget these 4 points when you start your session.
Yep.
How many more of your staff are going to do that? Like it's going to be a completely different thing. And then you start the session on the right foot, better quality classes. So it can go a really, really long way.
Yeah. And in that text message, you can say, hey, have a great day. And so you're doing, employee morale at the same time.
100%. Surveys, a bunch of stuff you can do as well.
There's a lot of things. Yeah. But surveys, we were talking about surveys earlier. You can do staff surveys. Yeah. How is it to work? How am I as an employer? You know?
100%.
And especially in sports and leisure, we've mentioned this before in another episode, but especially in sports and leisure, a happy instructor usually means happy clients.
Yeah, your product is your instructor.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So you got to take care of them.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
All right, so I think this might be, you could tell me if I'm right or wrong, but this might be sort of a sticking point for a lot of organizations. Makeup classes.
Yes.
They can be a hassle. They can be hard to manage. So if our software can handle makeup classes in a way that makes sense, we'd love that. Have we lost hope on makeup classes? Or can we make it happen?
No, I had lost hope in the past. I remember, I would give a lot of programs during the summer, and people would sign up for a weekly program, and they would come in and be like, well, I'm leaving this summer.
I'll be gone 3 weeks. What's the point?
So I'm signing up for a 10-week program, but I know right away that I won't be there. And, there's always another class that you miss because your child is sick. So just like, I can't. Do you guys offer makeup classes? But we grew to like thousands of people. So it was like, how do you manage makeup classes when they're emailing, hey, can I come on this Saturday instead of that Sunday? And so we just said, no, we don't offer makeup classes. I've lost clients because of that, but I was like, I need to operate a system to make it efficient. At one point, what we did is we switched and we said, hey, we do free trials before a session. So let's offer all our summer clients if you want to do a makeup, come to a free trial for the fall session where I'm getting all these new clients that come for a free trial session, and then all these clients are coming to do a makeup class. It worked out decently, but still, it wasn't kind of optimal, right?
Right.
And nowadays, if you look at your software, ask that question. If you have a lot of people asking for makeup classes, it's worth asking the question. And the reason is, if we can automate that, can we create an ecosystem where the client comes in, signs up for a 10-week program, and then can go in and remove themselves from classes that they know they're going to be on vacation and select another date where there's a spot. So if there's 12 kids in your program and 2 parents remove themselves on these 2 Thursdays, and 2 other parents can do a makeup class at that session, right? Obviously same class, like 4 to 6 or 3 year olds, whatever age group you have, but it just makes it that people can remove themselves from classes and then add themselves in other classes if there's availability based on your max,
right,
for them to do all these makeup classes. But it becomes, an ecosystem where people just do it and it just works out, where people can pick another date.
And when that person removes himself from a class, they get a coupon.
Exactly.
Which is basically...
It gives them like a free account where they can go back to another class. And that whole thing has massive advantages. First of all, you're not managing that anymore.
Right.
They are. But then there's such value in the client being like, oh, I'm going to miss 3 weeks. Well, actually...
Yeah,
you'll be able to remove yourself and then find other weeks where you can maybe go twice a week. So you'll end up doing those 10 classes, and you're not going to miss anything. So they're more likely to register.
Yeah.
But you need to create a good system. So you need to be able to say you're only able to cancel a class X number of hours or a day before the class, so that it opens it up early enough so somebody else can come do a makeup class.
Sure.
Because if everybody cancels an hour before class, the whole system breaks.
Those are empty spaces.
So you got to block it there, and then teach your clients, hey, you're allowed to, but we need to know in advance so we can open up for somebody else. So the sooner you do it, the better the system works. Everybody wins.
Yeah. And
you just see this kind of happening in real time, and it just works really well. They're added to the attendance list, so your staff knows that Johnny will be there that Tuesday, even though they're never there. So it just makes the system needs to work, and you can't have parts of this. You need everything to work. Or else the system breaks.
Or else it breaks. Of course. And if you've done a good job of communicating how the system works to your clients, then hopefully you're just managing exceptions, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is this becomes a marketing tool. So once you have it in place,
yeah, exactly.
I come in and I'm like I was saying, I'm going to miss 3 weeks. No worries, you can make it up. So right there, I get the client to sign up. Yep. But there's also the client at the end of the session who's going to sign up again because he was able to remove himself when he was in vacation, and he ended up saying, hey, I paid $200 for 10 classes. I went to 9 or 10. That's amazing. Let me sign up for the fall. They gave me the flexibility. Or at the end of the session, you're like, hey, I paid $200 and I ended up going to 5 classes because I was on vacation for 3. My kid was sick for 2 other weeks.
Yeah. Those were expensive classes.
Yeah, those were expensive. Let me not sign up next session, right? So it gives you a competitive advantage and just gives you this, the parent goes out there and he's like, I feel like I got my money's worth. Even if you give the best classes, if I only show up to 40% of the classes, I'm not coming back. I don't care how good the experience was, right? So you need to kind of combine a great experience, but also give the parent the ability to be present on their timeline. I think that has massive value.
So the last thing we wanted to talk about today was something that a lot of different types of sports need to do, which is basically skill tracking. So how do you allow a participant to move on to the next level in a certain discipline? I think a lot of sports organizations need to do this kind of thing. And, well, it's really useful to be able to automate it, to be able to have the instructors actually fill out evaluation forms, things like that. So what kind of things should we think about in advance for this topic?
I think a lot of the things we hear on our sales calls when we're talking about skill tracking is like, can I have this student and kind of track them in time, right? Over years, over multiple sessions. Right. So let's say a child starts at level 1. Can, at the end of the session, my instructor easily go into their attendance list and fill an evaluation form that's automatically sent to the parent, and then say, well, child A is now in level 2. And then because they're in level 2, they're now able to go and register for next session and be allowed to sign up for level 2 because they completed level 1. So everything has to work where it's automated, but the instructor is the one who's personalizing the evaluation, making that call, and then based on that call, just toggling on the right thing, and then they're able to go into the next session.
Yeah, so if they try to sign up for level 2, they won't actually be able to because that skill is not assigned to them.
Exactly.
And related to skill tracking, there's the idea of graduation or, things like that. So the ability to send certificates. And I think you have a story about certificates, about volume at some point becoming,
And I think like this is especially true, I think, in the recreational, where, child signs up for a program just for fun, and then at the end, there's a little ceremony, you get a coupon, you get a little medal or ribbon, whatever it is. Yeah. When I started my operations 13 years ago, we did that. But then at some point we grew multi-location. And it was just like, my gosh, like giving ribbons to my staff that I'm not seeing, and then you forget. So then they go to a class, the ribbons are not there, and it's disappointing because the session before they had it. It just became kind of an operational nightmare, and we stopped it. We just said, okay. But the problem with that was that we would get dozens of parents at the end of the session saying, you know what? I wish I would have had like something at the end. Hey, you completed their first, program, or they completed this level, like just giving a little something, right? Because they got something at gymnastics, right? That smaller. So how do we give that without, burdening our whole staff or making it a whole thing that's really hard to maintain?
Really heavy thing to maintain.
So can we automate that again with the software? Are we able to create a certificate, like a nice certificate with Canva? Then come into the software, add placeholders with the child's first name, the level, the name of the instructor,
date graduation.
And then take that and then send it to hundreds of people at the same time via email, right? Or print it out, make it nice, and have your instruction right at the back, something really nice about the child, or comments, right? So you can still get the personal touch if you want it. But the ability to massively do that, it gives so much value. It says, hey, they finished, they get a nice certificate. And then if you want to go even further, why not take that certificate, make it a contest? 500 kids finish your winter session, send it to everybody and say, hey, if you go share that on social media and tag our business, you'll enter a draw to win your next session for free. So all these people are going to go in, give a testimonial. Hey, Caroline loved her program. You guys should sign up. Here's a certificate. They're at level 2 now. And it just, other parents will be seeing that, or maybe they'll print it out and hang it in the fridge. And then when friends come over, they'll see that, right? So it becomes a marketing tool. Put your logo there, make it look really nice, and then make sure everybody gets a certificate at the end. So again, a lot of times skill tracking evaluations is for advanced athletes, right? But I would say that's really important. You want to see the progress, but then when you have your more recreational programs, maybe you don't need an evaluation, because they're starting off, but give them something at the end that they can share and they can help you grow your business.
Yeah, exactly. And, I don't think I'm teaching anybody listening here anything when I say this, but, part of the reason why, kids especially, but even adults do sports is, really to feel a sense of gratification, a sense of, I'm growing, I'm getting better at something. There's something satisfying in that. And when that is recognized, there's such a value to that. And I think that especially, parents who see their children kind of shining with that recognition, really happy, really proud of their certificate or whatever it is, there's a really, really good chance that those families are going to stay with you. So it's really, really powerful for client retention as well.
100%.
Great. So that covers it for this episode. I hope you found some of these points useful. If you have thought of anything, have any ideas that we haven't thought of, please, we'd love to hear them. Put it in the comments below or wherever you can communicate with us based on there's a lot of platforms this podcast is on, but you can also write to us by email. We'd love to hear your feedback, and stay tuned because we have 5 more points that we want to talk about on the next episode, and I'm certain there's at least 1 or 2 you haven't thought of. So that's going to be great. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye, Ali.
See you, Will.
Bye-bye.